Hello, my name is Jason Linville, and this is a lecture on the polymerase chain reaction. So we're in I think, the 2 of 4 here. We're talking about thermal cycling. So this is the process now that we've learned the components of the PCR reaction and a little bit about the overview as far as, okay, we need to separate our DNA, then the primers attach, then the polymerase, DNA polymerase, Taq polymerase. We're going to learn there's the specific polymerase later, attaches to those primers, and it adds the letters or the DNTPs to the reaction. Okay, so that's sort of the overall process. What we want to know here is the way we get the DNA to separate and to go through that process and then start it over is through temperature changes. So I want you to know this is sort of a loaded objective here. There's 3 temperatures and something happens at each of those temperatures. So you just need to list it. Okay, at 94, the DNA separates. At 60 degrees, the primers attach. Okay, and I'm ruining the lecture here. Finally, the instrument that we put the tubes in that takes it, heats up the tubes and cools it down. Okay, I want you to know what that instrument's called. No tricks here. Okay, for thermal, it's called a thermal cycler. Okay, so just don't get confused and think I'm making up a term no, that is the instrument's name. All right. So changing the temperature is going to allow the DNA to separate. Okay, that's going to be temperature 1. The primers to attach, that's temperature 2. And the polymerase to attach and to add these DNTPs, that's 3. So again, the more you know the process, the order of this reaction, if you've got it down pat from the previous lecture, okay, as far as component 1, DNA, 2, this is where the primers come in, 3, the polymerase, and 4, the DNTPs. Okay, it's going to be very easy to convert that into the 1, 2, 3 steps. Okay, because both of the 2 components, the polymerase and the DNTPs, are both correct at step number 3 of this thermal cycling reaction. Now we just need to memorize some temperatures. All right, this is one thermal cycler, how it looks. I need to update this picture. This is an older one, but it fits on a bench. It's not very big. Okay, you flip this up, you put your tubes in there. Okay, it has a couple buttons on it, and then you're ready to go. The thing is, thermal cyclers, they're not hooked to a separate PC. They can just run by themselves. They work for a long time. It's just a heat block, heats up and cools down. In fact, fun story. This isn't fun for anybody. Our thermal cycler that we've been using since 98, I think that's about right. No, probably like the year 2000, we got the new thermal cycler. So it's been in this program for about 20 years, and it's been working those 20 years. The lid broke. Okay, there was the lid part of the thermal cycler heats up, and I got an error message on that. Okay, so that broke, and I'm like, oh man, we're gonna have to buy a new thermal cycler. They cost like thousands of dollars, right? But you go on eBay and you find the one that we have, okay, is being sold for, I think it was like under $200. And as I'm looking at this thermal cycler, okay, you're hitting the plus 30 button right now, right? As I'm looking at this thermal cycler, I notice there's a lid that they're selling for $24. Like, well, if our lid's defective, I mean, I don't know, I'm just getting the error. Maybe I can buy this lid and I bought the lid for $24. Okay. I pay. Don't worry about your lab fees going towards Dr. Linville's crazy ideas. Okay. I put up to $24 for the lid. It came in, I put it on, thermal cycler's still working. And that's a story to tell your grandkids. I know I will. God, Grandpa is telling, I don't even, do you know what eBay is? I don't know what he's always talking about, buying stuff on eBay. Later, I'll tell you how I fixed the kids' bouncy house. All right. So a thermal cycler, again, don't be confused by the name. Thermal cycler, it's boring. That's the name. That's the correct answer on a quiz and exam. All it does is it's a metal block, heats things up and cools it down, right? Okay, so what are those 3 temperatures? Well, we have one here that's around, and it varies. So as long as you get it in the ballpark, like anywhere from 92 to 95 degrees, I'm going to give you credit for that. The annealing temperature is down here, and it can really be anywhere from 60 to 50. It can probably vary the most because you're going to adjust the annealing temperature based on the primers you're using. So again, when you're describing this, for an answer for a question on the quiz or exam, any number you give in this range is going to be okay. And then extension, it's usually but works best at 72. So these are the three temperatures that I want you to remember. Okay. If you, don't give me a range. Okay, fine. 94, 60, and 72. There. Use those numbers for your answer. All right. So let's go through this process again. It starts. Your DNA is just sitting there. These ladders, they're held together by hydrogen bonds. And it's not chemist. Don't worry. It just means if you heat up DNA, it melts, kind of like an ice cube. Those bonds break. That's how you get the ladder in two. You just break those bonds by heating it up. So when you heat this up to 94 or 95, doesn't matter, okay, the strands are going to separate. So that's how we get that first step accomplished. Separating the strands, DNA component number 1, 95 degrees. Okay, how do we get the primers to attach? When you cool it down, when you cool down the DNA to 60, the DNA strands are going to eventually come back together. Once you break those strands of DNA apart, that's a great thing about DNA. It will come back together and form the double strands again. Okay. However, if you have a bunch of, we put a lot of them in, okay, of these primers, the primers are going to be able, because they're small and they can get in there, they're going to attach to DNA first before the DNA comes back together on its own. Okay. So when you cool it down to 60, those primers attach immediately. Okay. Now the DNA can't really come back together because those primers are kind of blocking its way. All right. So the primers are going to attach to DNA. Okay. And then you raise it to 72 degrees. And the Taq polymerase at 72 degrees, the Taq will actually do its job at other temperatures as well. 72 is just the ideal temperature for the polymerase to attach to those primers and start amplifying. And you get 2 polymerases, one on each side of the ladder, that they'll attach, and elongate is the term that we use for that third temperature. So you want to be fancy, okay? If you want to be a commoner, let's go commoner, fancy pants here. Commoner, DNA separates. You get credit for that. Fancy pants, DNA denatures. Okay. Commoner, the primers attach. Want to be fancy? The primers anneal to the DNA. Where's my tea? It's in a regular cup. So if I had a teacup, I might do that. Okay. Commoner, the polymerase attaches and adds letters. Okay. If you want to be fancy, the DNA polymerase elongates the DNA. All right. At the end of the cycle, there's twice as many copies. So we got 2 copies of DNA here, right? We split the ladder. Polymerase came in. We go from 1 copy to 2 copies. So then we do it again and again and again and again and again. Okay. Spring break. I'm thinking of going on vacation this summer because we didn't get spring break. It's not, I said it's spring break. It's like would be spring break. Don't worry. We're going to come back to DNA in a second here. So don't fast forward through this too much. Okay. Now, normally if we were in class, I would point at somebody, a lucky person, and I would say, all right, I'm going to give you an opportunity when I leave this summer because I need a vacation. And there's actually at this point a very real possibility that I might be driving from Alabama to Idaho. Dr. Linville, that's a terrible, I'm aware. We might see Mount Rushmore on the way. You're going to be disappointed. Fine. I know. All right. Anyhow, I'm going to be gone for a month, 30 days, and I'm going to hire a student to mow my lawn. Okay. This is where we're getting sort of back to the lesson. All right. This is sort of a little logic / math problem because when you mow my lawn, okay, there's a couple rules that I have. You can't break the rules. Okay. So pay attention. The rules are you need to mow my lawn once a day. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if there's a tornado. I don't care if there's snow on the ground. I don't care if it's 120 degrees. Every day my lawn gets mowed gets lawned. Okay. All right. But I'm going to compensate you for it. And you have 2 payment options here. Number one, $30,000. Okay. Oh, now I got, okay. Now everybody's interested. Okay. Okay. Once a day seems a little eccentric, but $30,000. See if that check clears. Yeah, I'm in. Okay. Payment option 2 is I'll give you a penny on day 1, pass, wait, give you a penny on day 1, and I'll double it each day. Okay. So penny on day 1, day 2, you get 2 cents plus the penny you got yesterday. So that's 3, right? On day 3, you get 4 cents. Okay. But on day 4, you get 8 cents. Day 5, you get 16 cents and et cetera. And then at the end of the month. Okay. So okay, got to decide right now. Decide what do you want? And you most often what happens, so you can shout out your decision right now at the computer screen, what you would do. Most often students go 30,000. Okay. Because they don't want to risk. Oh yeah, I'll go with the other option. Then they're making like 16 cents or something, $16 for 30 days of hard work. But let's do the math. Okay. So if we do the math here, can I share my screen and bring up a calculator? I should have thought of this beforehand, but I forgot that I have the technology to do this. Okay, let's go ahead and share the screen here. Okay, let's exit out of this. Bring up a little calculator. You guys still seeing this? Yeah, we are. Okay. So 0.01. Well, not 0.1, 0.01. Okay, so that's a penny, right? That's day 1 times 2. Okay. Okay, we got 2 cents on day 3, 4 cents on day 4, 5, 6, 7, 32 cents at the end of the, plus everything that we've made, right? So after 1 week, 32 cents, this is not looking good. Okay, 30,000 was probably the right idea. Well, let's go into week number 2. Okay, so this is day 7, right? We got day 8, day 9, day 10, day 11, day 12, day 13, day 14. Okay, we're making $40 on day 14, 2 weeks into it. Plus we made $20 yesterday, but still compared to 30,000, we're not even close here. All right, let's go another week. Okay, $40, $41 on day 14, day 15, day 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 5 on day 21, you were making $40 last week. Day 21, you're making $5,000 now. Ooh, and we still got a week to go. 30,000. We might get there pretty quickly, right? Day 22, 23, 24, 25. We blew it. We should have taken this option, right? 26, 27, 28. On day 28, you're making $600,000 for 1 day of work of cutting my grass. And what is it? Oh, it's July 29, 30, 31. Oh, July 31st, you're making $5 million. Plus you made 2.5 yesterday. Okay, probably the better option. You don't have to work another day in your life if you would have chosen option 2. Dr. Limber, are you? No, I'm not going. I don't have $5 million to spend on cutting the grass. All right. But how does this relate to DNA? Well, number one, with DNA, every cycle we're double, right? From 1 copy to 2 to 2 to 4 to 2, and then we end up with the millions here. Okay. But remember, starting out, we have thousands of copies of DNA in our extraction tube, and we put in probably a couple hundred go into our amplification reaction. So let's say we start off with about 500 copies. This is what that would look like. After 1 cycle, we go to 1,000, 2, 3. Okay. And we're up to like, after 20 cycles, about 500 million copies. But what we're going to find with DNA amplification is as we're amplifying and get higher and higher, eventually we run out of stuff. We run out of letters. We run out of primers. Okay. And so that actually evens out, and we don't get this perfect amplification curve. It evens out, and it evens out around 10 million copies. Okay. So we could, in theory, create billions of copies of DNA, right? But we tend to run out of materials. Okay. And 10 million copies of DNA tends to be plenty to put them onto the instrument and see the amplified DNA. Actually, if you create too much amplified product, it makes it harder to read on the instrument. So this is sort of ideal. We try to put in about, we're going to find the ideal number is about 350 copies of DNA. And then as we start to run out after about 28 to 32 cycles, so about a month, okay, this is where we're at. Okay. So, lawn mode, we're starting off at 1 penny and we're doubling it without running out of cash dollars. And we wind up with 1 million or so. Here we're starting off with more, but we eventually run out. So we wind up with about 10 million. That's how we get to that number. I just want you guys to know that we have about 10 million copies. And that's just, again, a ballpark. Sometimes you wind up with a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. Those 3 temperatures, how the 4 different components play their role at each of those 3 temperatures, and then understand that, okay, it's a doubling, and that's how we wind up at that 10 million. All right, let me stop there.